the time been with the Suzuki Academy and how much our family has grown and changed, and how important Suzuki's methods and Kyoko's teaching and just that environment have been to our family as time has gone on. And I don't readily admit this, so please try not to judge me too harshly, but we actually heard about the Suzuki School from the Tiger Mom book. I read that and I thought, well, I don't agree with a lot, but the music lessons sound kind of good.
Yeah. Why?
So, you kind of have strange.
You have no idea what you're getting into.
Well, and in the book, she presents it as if you don't know anything about music, it worked because her daughter learned step by step and she goes along with her. And I thought, well, I know nothing about music, so that would be what we need, because I don't have anything to bring to the table. So, but anyway, from beginning there and kind of thinking, well, we'll start music lessons, then the kids will take off and they'll be able to do piano and it's their thing, and that's great. To really 6 years later, what do we have? Well, we have 4 kids who play the piano at various levels of ability, and at various levels every day on how excited they are, and it's up and down, and in some ways they have surpassed our expectations, and in other ways we've learned to change our expectations a little. And but what really has come about is they are growing beautiful hearts. They are taking away from this experience such great lessons for life. And the piano playing is great, but it's better to learn that if you put tiny steps into your work every day, you will make progress, and you will be able to look back and see how much you've grown. And especially during this time, my parents love listening to the kids play. They love it. They will FaceTime, during their practices at home, and just the kids being able to play with them. And my mom took lessons for piano when she was 10 years old, so quite a while ago, and was so scared off of it because of having to do recitals and it being a kind of a negative experience. She never continued with it, and then never had me or my brother exposed to it. But she loves it now. She bought 2 of the Suzuki books, and then her and my older daughters will play together over FaceTime, and just such a great experience for them to bond together. And yeah, so I'm getting a little long-winded, but all of that being said, I thought the greatest takeaway is not the learning the piano. That's fantastic, but it's the great experience they've had with Kyoko. It's the learning to love the music, learning to be kind to themselves and put the work in, and just grow into great people. So that's all I got. So.
Well, and I forgot to mention, I hope if you don't mind, I'm going to record this just in case there's a little excerpt that we could show to like a new parent meeting or something that. So if you guys are all okay with that, we won't sell you on the internet. so thank you so much. I really liked what you said about learning how to be kind to themselves. I had never thought about it that way, but it is true that sometimes learning an instrument, there are some really hard things that kids maybe haven't experienced in school or in other parts of their lives, and learning how to be kind to themselves through the mistakes and getting to the other side. That's a really important life lesson. So that was a new perspective that I really appreciated. So, all right, Amy.
Well, I will echo a lot of what you've said about the beautiful heart. So the piece that I'm going to share is what I've not yet written, but will write for next month's newsletter. And that is that our experience with Suzuki has been across multiple states. Becca began Suzuki lessons about 9 years ago in Nashville, Tennessee. And from there, we moved to a suburb of Atlanta, Georgia. We moved to Reno, Nevada, and then we came here. And she followed Suzuki through all of those transitions, 4 states in 9 years. And 4 or 5, I don't know. Anyway, a lot of transitions. And what that has been for her more than anything else, like you, we didn't know what we were getting into when we signed up for it. The lady who directed the children's choir at our church that Becca as a 3-year-old was a part of taught Suzuki violin and said, "Oh, Becca, you really enjoy this. You should consider doing that." And Becca still remembers the conversation where we were like, "Don't you think piano would be more useful to you as a life skill? Like, in a couple years you can do piano, or do you want to do violin?" But she loved this lady, and so she was like, "No, I'm going to do violin. I want to do like she remembers us saying that. And Of course, we eat our words, and now she does piano too. But you know, we told her at 3, you have a choice. You're gonna make this life decision here and now at 3 years old. We were first-time parents, but that was an experience where we moved from just that personal connection, and it was something she did, to when we moved. By the time we moved to Georgia, she had been doing it for 2 years, and we had begun to see that it really was a positive thing in her life, despite practice tussles here and there, that it was something she felt really proud of, to be able to say she can do this. She is a violinist at 6 years old.
Mhm.
And so it was important to us to find a teacher as soon as we got to Georgia for her. And that became the thing that we did. We contacted Rachel Osterhaus before we even moved to Indiana, looking for a Suzuki school to connect, because we knew that that was something important in her life. And so for us and for her, in the midst of a whole lot of change, changing grade schools mid-year, changing groups of friends, being able to connect to her music has been a piece of consistency. And it's been a comfort for her when she may sort of redefine herself in different schools or with different groups of friends, that she's able to have that strong connection and understand this is something that's a part of her and who she is, that she engages with and loves music. And so that's been our experience, as one of plenty of other gifts as well, many of the things you said, but really just that sense of consistency, that Suzuki's been something that has been a home base for Becca and for our whole family to a degree, across a whole lot of other changes and transitions.
That's awesome. That's great that she had that.
Great.
I will say though, about that being kind to yourself thing, when you said that, that is so true of William. I'm experiencing that in him right now at 5 years old, that he is a perfectionist, and he does not like it when you tell him he needs to lift his violin a little or he needs to shift his finger. Like, he takes it personally.
Mhm.
And so the learning in that, although it's a struggle right now, is certainly, I hadn't thought of it that way either, but I love the way that you phrased it, of he's learning that he doesn't need to expect perfection the first time from himself. And that's a huge life skill.
Yeah, my second daughter is very much a perfectionist, and I think Liz knows. I told this story when Ed Sprunger was there. She would get so frustrated, she would lay on top of the piano at home, like with her arms out and her head down, because she would get frustrated that she couldn't get it done. And now, or couldn't get the rhythm right, or something like that. But now she works through problems, and she sees where, like, she's stuck on London Bridge. Like, that was a really tough piece for her. And so, you know, Kyoko says, we'll focus on these sections. And so she writes it down in her book, and then she says, okay, I need to focus on these sections every day. And there's none of the pain that goes with it anymore. It's just, you know, she just gives herself the time to work through. So she's only 7, so I'm hopeful it stays. we could go back and forth with that a little bit, but it's a marked difference. So I'm hopeful your son gets through that stage too. I've been there. Oh man.
That's great. It is neat to see the other side of that. And I think it's even a more of a stark problem with the perfectionist child, that personality really, that's a real key learning for that personality. So.
On the other hand, Becca is not a perfectionist, and that was never her problem. Her problem is getting her to tune into those fine-tuned things that she just doesn't care about.
Very true. Okay, Stephanie.
Great. Well, I'm going to piggyback off of Amy over here. So looking at the Suzuki method from a teacher perspective is just as fulfilling as the parent perspective. And coming to this conversation, the thing that I've been appreciating about it the most lately is that ability for it to be so individualized and really meet the need of the student, meeting those kids right where they're at. And it works because while the Suzuki repertoire is so very concrete and beautifully thought through and laid out, the skills, techniques are so specific, that allows me as a teacher to really just teach the student, you know, the pacing, the strategies, the perspective that each child needs to focused in on that particular skill is going to be different across the board. And so meeting each kid where they're at and being able to go from there is so valuable because you get to dig in. And right now in our society, there's no time for that, and so we can stop, we can dig in, and we can do the work together. And as a parent, we can dig in and work on that character. We can work on that specific technique. And I think it all wraps back to that first course that all of us teachers take called Every Child Can. And for Suzuki, it's not a cliche. It's not a phrase. It's really the foundation, I think, of what we do. And in this world of cookie cutter solutions and, one size fits all education right now, it's just so unique and so valuable. And I'm appreciating it more than ever when I can sit down with each student and just spend time, meeting them where they're at, working on this specific skill set. And then like Amy said, and Meredith said, just transferring that to hopefully other things in their life. So as a teacher, as a parent, I'm very appreciative of this method.
I think I will chime in there, Stephanie, just to say that individualization thing, and maybe Meredith with 4 kids, you might have a similar experience. We've done a number of things with our children that works for one that does not work for the other. And Suzuki's been one of the few things that all 3 of them, for their very vastly different personalities, have all been able to dig into and find joy and benefit in. And so I definitely would affirm that experience.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that. It's something that's consistent for everyone, but within that, we definitely have to kind of be thoughtful about how we present the material. And I think Kyoko is masterful at that. She kind of understands each of the kids' personalities and where they come from. And she goes from my rather serious oldest to my youngest, who would prefer to play, while standing on his head and sticking his tongue out. So there's an ability to be consistent within this way of teaching, while allowing the flexibility to meet every child where they are. So.
Yeah. Hi, Shelley, welcome.
Hi.
Glad
Sorry, I'm late. I tried to get, I had a staff meeting 12 to 1 and I tried, but they kept talking, so.
Yes, thanks. Okay, we're up to Liz is gonna share next.
Well, I kind of hear a central theme today about being kind. I think in this, especially these day and ages, it's really hard. There's so much strife and things going on, and it's the people that are being kind that are kind of holding things together and giving us hope. So I'll tell you a little bit about me, but I also want to make sure that the parents are kind to themselves too, because I think it's very easy. I think the teacher, as a teacher, you have to be so sensitive to the parents, because sometimes the parents don't know. They're, like you were not a musician. You didn't know anything about it at all. And so to find that really happy triangle where, everybody, the teacher's kind of helping to guide because we have the training, but the parent's the one that has to do the work at home. And then of course the child is the one that everything bounces off. So I'll just real briefly tell you a little bit about my journey. Probably began when I was taking cello lessons. No, I'm not going to talk about, every year that I grew up. But anyway, I was taught by a lovely nun who Sister Gina Marie, and she was very kind, but not a cellist. So I grew up with a great deal of tension. And when I got older and I gave recitals, my hands would shake and things like that. So fast forward, I had my son, who's now 38, but anyway, he was 4 years old, and I was hired to teach cello in a string program. And I had no experience, zilch. So I decided to go to Chicago and do Suzuki training, and that changed everything. That was like monumental. I learned so much about learning to play with good posture, no tension. It was just mind-boggling. And my son, who was 4, loved it because he got to stay and play. He played, and he was taking from a local Suzuki teacher, and he got to put money in the vending machine. Things like that that can make the whole experience really fun. So the camp, and then every year after that, we went to a Suzuki camp, and my daughter also played cello. So we had, 3 cellos in our family, and that kind of experience, that family experience, where we all just, relaxed and had fun, and it was just great. I was so hooked from that first Suzuki training. I would never do any other kind of teaching again. And the other thing is, I have found what my heart has always wanted, and that's to teach with other Suzuki teachers in a nice building and have amazing parents. So I'm just in heaven. I'm in heaven.
Well said. That's lovely. I want to go to camp.
Oh, it is so much fun. Well, Sarah knows about Blue Lake because you can take a whole family there and you stay in these cabins, and it's only like 4 days. So it's 4.5 days. And you never know, it's going to be hot or cold, but it's a lot of fun. But all the camps are super fun though.
We'll put that on our list for when this is all over.
I highly recommend it. Highly.
Summer, but they're planning to have it this coming summer. We'll see, hopefully. So.
Really? I want to tell you what happened. My son, who was 4, he was playing like every day. At camp, you play like 3 or 4 hours. And what was the first thing he did when we got home? Sat down and played cello for his dad.
Wow.
That was what he wanted to do.
That's
So,
excellent.
So he was so proud to show him all his progress, probably.
I know. He goes, wow, this was fun.
We're going to need another piano.
Well, I so appreciate, I think I would be interested to hear, I think in a sense during this time, it seems a little bit like we're all isolated. And what I miss about, I still love going in for lessons and teaching, but it feels like we all just kind of have our masks on. We don't really talk a lot. And I don't know if you guys are experiencing that feeling of how do we keep connecting with people during this time? And I don't know if you have any input on that from your perspective of how do we keep people connected with the stress levels they have and with what they're going through.
Well, I think like you guys all said, I mean, that kindness piece, just connecting with kindness right now. I know that I'm trying to be hyper aware with my students and with my parents. What we should all be thinking is you don't know what's going on with them. Treat every day as a day that, they might have had a big, really stressful, horrible moment, I'm hanging on the edge kind of day. Not that we want to handle everything with, their glass, but treat every task with kindness so that your correction is supportive, not punitive, that you're correct, all of that. So it's hard because we have this immense challenge to keep these expectations high, but do it in a very loving, way. But that's already what we do.
Well, I think some of the things you're doing already, like the newsletter and in the parent column, which is awesome. And then this is a great idea, I think. And you're right, we could try and expand it. Next time I'll write a personal letter encouraging all my students to join. And, it is rather weird at Central right now because everybody's sort of shuffling past each other. But I think we can still, we can make the connection with the parents. And even the group lessons on Zoom have been great. I mean, They haven't been my choice, and I wouldn't do that. But the kids were playing games, and so I think just kind of keep doing what we're doing.
And I would uplift the group lessons as well. I think that maybe even because of the masks, it seems like Rachel's put in an extra effort to have the kids learn each other's names this year. And so in the in-person lessons with the masks on, I feel like William is actually connecting, and Becca too, to a degree, with their group cohort, the other kids in their class, more than maybe they did in the past. They're talking about kids by names, and Rachel's even had them give feedback to give compliments for their performances by looking them in the eye and saying their name. And that's building community. Maybe the step of not having the immediate community, maybe helping to build some of that community in ways that we just took for granted before. And so I think the group class is doing a really good job of that so far.
That's excellent.
And that 30 days of sharing was great too. That was really good. Even that little kid that played for a dog, I just love that. It's like, well, can I count playing for my dog? Sure. Yeah, of course.
My daughter is a little older. She's so old now that I don't even drive to lessons anymore. So I do get the text and the email update on lessons, but it's quite liberating, I have to tell you. So although I there's a part of me that still is like, what happened? Like I still want to like, and she's great at telling me all of that and telling me what I need to buy. So I'm definitely in the loop. But I applaud any level of normalcy. So I love, and I think practice is a normal thing to do. And so I love a routine. I love, and my children all thrive off of, this is still going to happen. Like it may happen differently, but it's still going to happen. And in the world of cancellations and one more thing that isn't going to happen, having somebody say, yep, we're going to have a November recital. Yep, we're going to practice every day. Like you can still practice every day, even in a pandemic. Like that still can happen. So I think rising to the expectation of normalcy in a really abnormal time is very important. And I think it's important mentally. Like I think it helps our mental health to be like, the sun comes up, the sun goes down, and we practice somewhere in the middle of that, And so I think that I know has been a saving grace for Madeline for sure. Like there's always harp, like it's always there, and that and there's always something more to work on, and there's always another piece to work on, and in the midst of kind of things being really bad, there was always harp, and that's just a real gratitude when I think about when I really reflect on that. So I think that would be what I would encourage is keep doing what's normal. Do your normal, do your year, and like nothing, as much as you can, to me gives a sense of security in that time. So that's what we're trying to do here. We had World Communion Sunday yesterday because that's what we do. And we're planning for Advent because that's what's going to happen. like we're going to keep going,
One of the things I'd affirm that ISA did really early in the pandemic was to issue that long document of policies and what we would do if Indiana went back to certain levels. Mm-hmm. And so it's not just keeping as many things normal as possible, but it's knowing even if things change and we can't have that November recital in person, there will still be a November recital. It's not just going to be canceled. There's a plan. We know exactly how it's going to happen. We're not going to be waiting for that text message from the studio. To me, that's been really encouraged. I like order in my life, and knowing how ISA is responding, what the plan is, and that there is a plan for any eventuality within the pandemic was really reassuring, and I think remains reassuring for the kids too.
The spring recital was such a gift because I was kind of in the middle of a really hard moment, and just being like, and the Zoom explanation of how to, that like Zoom explanation about how to do the music and stuff. But I loved that little harp, and my parents in Illinois who we hadn't seen because they were all quarantined, like they came on. It was really a nice gift. It was really great.
I
And
thought
the-
it was really cute how some of the kids got really dressed up, you know, and were real formal, and other kids like barefoot, and and you know, it's an example of being kind or being, you know, being understanding. We didn't, you know, issue a thing like you have to wear, you know, the proper shoes and stuff. It's like, let's just get everybody out there and playing. And so I enjoyed that. I thought it was really fun to watch the variety of reactions.
I also really appreciated the parent who put together the violin and the harp ensembles. I think that was a really, I know it took a lot of work, but it was a really important experience of completion for my kids who had worked so hard on those group songs that were going to be played in the spring recital, to get to perform their song with the click tracks, with the group that put that together. Again, just that sense of normalcy of this didn't just get thrown aside because things changed. And they were adorable.
Yeah,
And it's super cool. Yeah, that's great.
got some awesome parents. Yeah.
To keep going off of that, I so appreciate what everybody said, but we are still staying virtually on everything. I have 2 children who are a little more medically fragile, so we are more sensitive about getting out. But I do appreciate that Suzuki Academy has offered a way to make everybody comfortable. If you're in person, you guys have gone above and beyond to make sure it's a safe meeting place in person. If you can't be in person, I appreciate so much that the kids have been able to keep piano. They had to give up so much. You know, they can't do dance anymore, and they probably can't do Girl Scouts much more. And all of these things are going to be on a list of, you can't have that, you can't have that, you can't have that, because we can't make it happen. But I love that we can keep piano. We can keep that going. We can keep that consistency. And in a year of getting rid of a lot of other things that they love, I'm glad that I don't have to get rid of that.
Well, that's helpful to hear those, and we appreciate our community of parents so much. So, well, our final topic, and I just want to wrap up on time, but our final topic was going to be recital tips, and I have a list. I'll probably post them somewhere on the website. You know, 10 things to how to prepare for a successful recital. But I think you all are so experienced, you know them all. But I wondered if anybody has one tip that maybe people don't normally think about. I'll share mine. I think people don't normally think about, am I listening to my recital piece currently in the time leading up to the recital and like right at the recital time? So that's my tip. Listen, it's a very simple, the very most basic of Suzuki tips. But do you guys have any that are like kind of aha, like very obvious, but maybe something that we don't always do for recital?
One thing I do is if you have a little one or even older ones, I have them get like stuffed animals and line them up, and then they do like a visualization of the recital. So they play and, you know, they bow. I would definitely go through the routine of bowing, and even if you want them, Sarah, we should say whether they should announce the piece if they're virtual or not, or somehow, I don't know how we're going to have the program. You maybe send the program out ahead of time or whatever. But I think that visualization of, you know, because that one little girl that started crying, I don't know if you remember her, she was just overwhelmed by the whole immensity of it. So I think if you kind of run through it, have a run through or something ahead of time, and maybe even record it, you know.
That's a good idea.
Good idea.
I'll piggyback on that to say that with my youngest, who is my most difficult child in all things in life, that run through exactly how, or as close to exactly how as it's going to be, is super important to him. Even little things like he's finicky about clothes. So making sure we pick out the clothes, try them on a different day. He likes them, they aren't itchy or whatever else. Because the last thing that we want, and we've had it, is a breakdown over the shirt that we put on that you now must wear because it's 20 minutes before the recital. So avoiding all those little unexpected things that for us don't seem big, but for the kids can really be make or break.
That's great.
Yeah, I always well, for my more advanced students, they are on a pedal harp, so they put on your recital shoes, practice in those recital shoes, because there's something about putting on those shoes that adds a little bit of pressure, but not a lot. But it just adds a little bit of, oh, this is the real deal now. And then, yeah, I always eat a piece of chocolate before the recital because I like to be positive. So that's what I do.
Yeah. That's a great idea.
Great idea, Stephanie.
Yeah.
Start that.
The parents too.
Yeah. Well, and I think mine would be for the parents. Once they get up there, do all of the stuff you can to prepare. And then once they get up there, enjoy it. Just, it's, even if they play all of the wrong notes or skip halfway through the song, which mine have done, or almost fall off the stage when they bow. Awesome. Something that might have almost done. You know, you just, these moments are not going to last. At some point, they will play through the Suzuki books and it will be beautiful, but they will never again be 6 years old and staring out at the crowd trying to, you know, look as cute as can be while maybe playing the totally wrong song. So,
That is a great realization to just cherish it in the moment. So, well, I'm so thankful for each of you. This was just a really special moment to hear from people, and I hope we can do this again, and I hope we can involve more people, and I hope we can just support each other during this time. And I'm just thankful for each of you, and I hope you guys have a great week, and we'll keep in touch.
please do.
Thank
guys
you,
are-
Sarah.
Thank you, Sarah.
Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.
We appreciate you, Sarah.
Yes, thank you so much. You guys are awesome. Bye.
Bye.